So today we're just going to be talking about the top mistakes that you can make in designing your backyard. The first one that I just like to talk about is budget. Make sure that you have a list of all the plants that you want to buy, because if you don't have a list, guess what's going to happen? When you get to the nursery, you're just going to be buying all sorts of plants and you don't want that. Take some time, sit down, write down a list of all the plants that you want, and then the most important thing is that just compare the prices of different nurseries. Because the one thing that I've also seen is that I've also seen people just go with one nursery and be like, okay, I'm gonna get my plants at this specific nursery. What you need to do is that you need to be looking at like maybe 2 or 3 nurseries that are near you. Compare the prices, see which ones have the best prices or have the best promotions, and then buy from them. Trust me, if you do this, you're just gonna enjoy saving more money, and saving yourself the trouble of like buying expensive plants. Or even the worst part is, imagine you've already bought the plant and then you go back and then you look at another nursery, then you're like, oh, I've already bought the plant, so that can be quite stressful. And the second part is basically researching. Researching is very important. Research the plants that you want to buy, researching in terms of like check if the plant can actually survive in your climate or in your region. Because that's another thing that I've seen is that when people buy plants, they don't really consider that, oh, the place is hot or the place is cold. They just buy the plant. And the next thing you know, 2 months later, the plant is not alive anymore and then they're sad, So for my case, I would say that I live in a very hot area. So I like plants that are very heat resistant, like succulents. Succulents are very good in heat. They absorb they can also absorb a lot of moisture or retain a lot of moisture or water, so you water them at least like 1 or 2 times a month and then they can survive. But essentially, just do that research, sit down, think about that plant that you want, and then just basically research, does your climate actually work with the plant that you want to buy? Because you don't want the plant to die essentially early. So yeah, just remember that. And the third one, which is basically planting the plants too close together. So for this one, imagine you've got a bunch of plants on promotion and then you just want to plant them together. So what happens is that if you plant the plants too closely together, what's going to happen below the surface is that those roots are going to intertwine with each other, meaning that when you now water your plants, what's going to happen is that they'll absorb all the water. So essentially, it's just going to mean that your plants are not going to grow properly since they're actually trying to fight each other for that water and for those nutrients, So just make sure that you plant your plantings evenly, spaced between each other, about 0.5 inches to 1.5 inches or 2 centimeters to 4 centimeters or 20 millimeters to 40 millimeters. So just depending on the measurements that you're using, but also just remember to just check the type of planting that you actually want to plant, So do a little bit of research, search that planting, and then try use ChatGPT or Gemini to just determine, okay, what's the difference? What's the distance between the planting that you're supposed to plant them at? So if you want the landscape design blueprint that's going to show you the full process of how you can design in your backyard space, go down in the link in the description below, check it out. God bless, and I'll see you on the next video.